So this is something that's actually been on my mind for quite literally years. Is there a direct correlation, or should there be a direct correlation between your ability as a drummer and the gear that you own and play? Now, if you take a fairly sensible approach to this, the obvious answer is no, it shouldn't matter at all. Because why should it? And this is something that I early on when I started doing these videos, I genuinely worried about this sort of thing, because people will see this idiot on YouTube with lots of drums, lots of expensive drums, and then doesn't look like he can really sort of play them and doesn't have loads of fantastic chops. And you know what? 7 or 8 years down the line, I still don't have fantastic chops. But the thing is, I know for myself that I'm not a bad drummer at all. I've had enough people tell me over the years, and you know, it's not a brag really. But the thing is I've had enough people tell me over the years that I do a decent enough job to have at least some confidence in my abilities. Now, when I sit down and play these things for you lot, yes, I tend to play fairly generic, fairly basic grooves and things. And the reason for that really is solely because who the hell needs to hear blasting chops when you actually want to hear the specifics of a drum? Especially if I'm banging out triple paradiddles backwards, forwards and sideways on a snare drum really quickly, like 180 BPM. How are you going to hear how the drum resonates or rings, or what? You're not really, because you're gonna basically hear all these blasting chops, which, hey, might be fantastic. I don't know. I'm never going to have fantastic chops. I absolutely know that, and I can honestly I have no problem with confessing that, because my brain just isn't wired to sit down and practice paradiddles. I practice the odd thing, and that's fine, but the thing is I'm just not wired that way. I never have been, I never will be, and so blasting paradiddles and other ratamacues and all sorts of things is not my thing. You know, I have some chops. Generally, my own personal chops are being able to hear things, pick things up pretty quickly and learn songs pretty quickly. And at this point in time, as I'm gently waving at age 50, I basically have I've refined my interest in playing drums to playing with other people or recording stuff in here. Obviously, maybe for you guys, and also if I have some sort of little recording project with some friends on the go, I really enjoy that sort of thing. But my chops basically don't lie in my hands and my fingers, and you're never going to hear me, or my feet even, and you're never going to basically hear me blasting paradiddles and other rudiments on the kit. And if that's the measure of someone's judgment on whether or not I can play all 26 rudiments, or however many there are, backwards with one hand tied behind my back. If that's someone's measure, then that is their problem. It is not mine. As I said, I did worry about that for a long time, and then I realised that I just didn't care what other people think, and you know what, I still don't now, because it's just not important to me. And the thing that I love and the thing that I enjoy is picking out a drum to play for a specific reason, whether it be for a specific gig, a specific room, a specific recording, or just jamming on in here. I enjoy being able to pick out, or we're talking about snare drums or kits really now, but I enjoy picking up something that will suit my mood, or suit the music, or basically suit whatever it is I'm doing at that particular moment. And it shouldn't and doesn't have any reflection on my physical ability to play the drums. I can play the drums a lot better in a musical setting with other people, because basically that's where my interest lies. And sitting here being flash, trying to demonstrate how a snare drum sounds when I tune it in a certain way. It's not. I don't find that very interesting, to be honest. But the thing is, I think the problem that some people have. I watch a lot of YouTube, and I've said before, I think I do occasionally make references to sort of cars and supercars and hypercars, and things like Bugattis and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Paganis and stuff like that. And I make reference to them, even though I'm not really a petrol head. I don't really have. I have a passing interest in people that make videos about those cars and own those cars. And it did strike me the other day that, if you look at a lot of these YouTubers, the car YouTubers, the bigger name guys, like, I could reel names off, and if you're into cars, you'll know them. If you're not, then it will mean nothing. But some of these guys have got fleets of cars, almost, and you know what? The thing is, I mean, there's one particular English guy whose car collection, and he must be I think he's in his early 30s. His car collection is in terms of worth, is in the millions of pounds. There's no doubt about that. Does that make him a great driver? I'd probably say no. The instrument doesn't define who you are, and certainly the fact that someone owns I start reeling cars off, and those of you that actually know who I'm talking about will recognise it. But if you happen to own like a McLaren and a Ford GT and an Aston Martin, has anyone picked it up yet? The fact that you're able to drive the fact that you own and are able to drive these fancy cars, does that make you a great driver? Does it make you better than the average driver just because your car is worth £500,000 and the next guy's worth 10 grand, and the next guy's is 500 because it's just a rust bucket, It doesn't equate. It really doesn't equate. So the thing is, for me, and I think really for everyone, is if you have enjoyment, if you get enjoyment out of collecting or just owning a nice instrument, it doesn't have to be drums, obviously, but if you happen to own a really nice looking high-end Tama kit, or Yamaha Phoenix kit, or even something like the Pearl Reference and Masterworks stuff, anything, or a DW Exotic wood, anything like that. If you happen to own one and you happen to have paid £10,000 for this drum kit, good on you. Own it and enjoy it, and don't worry about what other people think. Because the thing is if there was some sort of rule, and I'm sure some people seem to think that there is some sort of written rule somewhere that you should only have like expensive instruments if you can really play, it really is rubbish. Because if you think about it, just from a practical point of view, if manufacturers, if the world worked like that, then manufacturers just wouldn't stay in business, because there wouldn't be enough high-end, high caliber, players to basically make the sales. Most people who have nice instruments, I'm absolutely sure of this, most people who have really nice instruments are regular people who just get enjoyment out of playing it, of owning it. And I absolutely know for a fact, because I'm guilty of it completely, but I know because people have told me, in fact someone told me recently, that they just like getting a drum out and looking at it. And I certainly do. I mean, that's part of the reason why I set this room up like the way it is. It wasn't so I could, look cool to thousands of people, dozens, hundreds, whoever watches these videos. I didn't do it to look cool to anyone, because I don't have to justify it to anyone. The only other person I have to justify it to is myself, because I'm the one paying for it. But I set all this out so I could enjoy it, so I could look at it, so I could walk through the door and I could see all this, and I could get a little bit of a buzz from it. And it's the same with the stuff up here. The Tama style kit, I probably will get that out and play it. I've got the Craviotto kit on here at the moment, which you may or may not have been able to work out. But the Tama style kit's been up there for far too long. And I want to get it down and play it. Not only because it needs to be played, but you know, I like coming in here and looking at that Star Walnut kit, and I just enjoy looking at those drums. I really do. And it's the same really with, I mean, that's why I have a display of Craviottos in my house. You know, it's because I like to look at the things. You know, owning anything nice is only half the thing for me. You know, if you have a nice drum kit, then obviously you get excited when you play it. You get thrilled when you play it. You take pride in owning it, and you love showing off photos and showing it off to people. And it's the same with cars, and it's the same with anything. But should there be any sort of restriction on you know, what a person owns in direct relation to their ability to play it or drive it or whatever? And it's absolutely not. And I remember when I was learning to drive 30 years ago, I remember one of the instructors saying, I think it may have been a girlfriend or it may have been someone he knew of, but they passed the test like on the Monday and then went out on the Tuesday and bought a Ferrari. And I think that's probably a perfect example, if ever there was one, given that generally everyone knows that the word Ferrari is absolutely synonymous with expensive and prestige and, you know, flash and anything like that. But mainly people know that a Ferrari is expensive. So you pass your test on day one, you go and buy a Ferrari on day two. And that's absolutely true. It's one of the few things I do remember from 30 odd years ago. But that's the story that the fella told. And it's absolutely the same with drums. There absolutely should be no reason at all why anyone should look down on someone else for having nice gear, even if they're not the greatest of players. Because at the end of the day, if the person has paid the money, if the person has worked for it and paid the money for it, then they're perfectly entitled to enjoy it. And, you know, it doesn't really matter how other people perceive you for that. If you get something from it, then it's absolutely worth having, as far as I'm concerned. And I think really, at the end of the day, you know, we're all human beings. We all get jealous, or you know, most people get jealous of some things at some point in their life. You know, it may well be jealousy that people are making comments, but the thing is I know that I know that was a real thing for me. I know that it exists, and I know that people do basically look down or judge people on the basis that they have nice gear. And if it comes down to a jealousy thing, then okay, fair enough. Not everyone has been as lucky as me. Not everyone is as lucky as the next guy. And, you know, that's a whole different thing. But you know what? This room, or these two rooms, represent 30 years of my life, over 30 years of my life. And, you know, the Janista kit that is slightly outshot there, the majority of that kit, because I've added a few drums in the last few years, the majority of that kit I've had since 1995. And in fact, the kit next to it, my XPK, the majority of that, because again I've added to it a little bit recently with odd drums, I've had for 31 years. And I'll never get rid of it. But the thing is I've been lucky enough, and stupid enough as well, as someone pointed out in a video recently, I either must have a really good job or in debt up to my eyeballs. And I did have a decent job. I got made redundant in 2019. So I did have a decent job where I had some spare pennies, you know. I don't know nearly as much as I did now. And I'm not in debt up to my eyeballs, but yes, I am in debt for some of these drums, and in fact, most of it actually, most of my remaining debt is solely because of that Peisty snare drum. Because that's the majority of what's left on my credit card is the payment for that drum. So if I sold it, I could pay off my debts pretty much instantaneously. But you know that's a different thing. But the thing is I'm sure that there are people that see these videos and then see me demonstrating them, or you know, individual drums or whatever, and think, why has he got those drums? And that's absolutely fine, because like I said, I don't sit here and play to the absolute top of my ability to make these videos, because that's not where my interest lies. And if I was to post videos of me playing with my band, that would be much more representative of how I play. And I have some expensive drums, but I also have some less expensive drums too. But I think I don't feel uncomfortable with my, if there is such a thing as like gear to ability ratio, I don't feel uncomfortable with my gear to ability ratio. If you know, if that sort of thing and judging people in that manner makes people happy, that's fine by me. But you know what? The people shouldn't be made to feel odd, bad, ashamed, or anything just because they're in a position to own nice gear. I don't know if that's the specific definition of gear shaming. I think to a degree it possibly is. I know gear shaming exists. I know. I've sort of heard of it more than I've actually seen it. But if anyone does feel that they are being gear shamed by anyone and they want to get back at them, by all means, I'm always happy to help out. And you know, I'm quite happy to lend a hand if anyone's ego needs squashing a little bit in that respect. You know, not a problem. I'm always happy to help. But I hope that makes some sense. You know, as I said, it's been on my mind for years. And just, you know what, if you feel a connection with something and you enjoy it, you've got a specific drum which is quite expensive or quite meaningful to you, but you know what, you're just a beginner and you like having it and you like playing on it and you just basically like looking at it, which, hey, that's a big thing. Good. Take pride in it, take enjoyment of it, and don't listen to what other people say. Hope that was enjoyable. Hope that meant something. See you again.